Hello again. Often when people talk about religion, they don't specify what they mean by the term. They tend to assume that everyone holds pretty much the same idea about what religion is, but that is often not the case. The results of inattention to the question, what is religion, are misunderstandings, fruitless debates, toxic conversations, and culture wars. Philosophers and other scholars who understand the importance of religion see the need for a clear, unitary definition, but they have not achieved agreement on what that might be. Indeed, some think the task is impossible. There are just too many radically different faith systems to allow for concise definition. I think that's needlessly pessimistic. Possessed as we are of wide knowledge these days of the world's peoples, we see organizations, cultures, and activities all over the world that look like something we call religion. So it is reasonable to think they must have something in common, some kind of essential characteristic. If so, that common element, if we can identify it, would give us a powerful tool for distinguishing religious from non-religious phenomena and for better understanding of the similarities and differences among the world's religious traditions. In my first talk, I examined some traditional, modern, and postmodern definitions and found all of them to be unsatisfactory to some degree. Let's make a fresh start by recognizing that religion is primarily a subjective phenomenon. It consists of attitudes, beliefs, understandings, and emotions that belong to the private, inner world of an individual human being. When a person organizes his or her life with sincerity and commitment around those interior apprehensions, they can be said to be living an authentic religious life. It follows that authentic religion cannot be found in an organization or sacred books or even in the outward behavior of worshipers. It lives primarily in the minds of individual adherents or believers. It belongs to their interior life. Now, I wish to be clear about the approach I am taking here. I am neutral as to the truth or value of any religious faith. My aim is to try to understand religion on its own terms, not to dismiss it as somehow archaic or irrelevant to life in the modern world. I contend that the best way to do that is to study religious consciousness from within, from the adherent's own subjective standpoint, rather than from an outside perspective that may be biased or even hostile. This view from within was the perspective taken by a group of scholars at Southern Methodist University, led by Dr. Frederick J. Strang, who came to some prominence in the late 1970s and 80s with a series of books under the general title, The Religious Life of Man. The system that emerged from their studies I will refer to as Strang theory, no pun intended, after its founder. Strang theory identifies three universal characteristics among people living what they consider to be religious lives. First, religion is a way of life organized around a person's ultimate concerns. Now, ultimate concerns are usually expressed in the form of profound questions, like, what is this world? What is the meaning of life? Who am I? How shall I live? How should I behave toward others? How can I face suffering and death with courage and dignity? What happens after death? These are existential questions that every human being must confront in some way or other. Secondly, religion challenges individuals to change, to transform their lives toward a resolution of those ultimate concerns. For example, a transformation from sinfulness to blessedness, from ignorance to understanding, from chaos to order and purpose, from fear to joy and fullness. The third characteristic is every religion offers specific means for achieving an ultimate transformation. Examples include prayer, rituals, meditation practices, spiritual exercises of various kinds, and participation in religious community. Putting these three together, we get a unique definition. Religion is a means toward an ultimate transformation. Now, definitions in philosophy, science, and other fields are not meant to languish in the pages of textbooks or dictionaries. They are created to help us make sense of things, to do work for us, to direct our inquiries. I often tell people, definitions are neither true nor false. Instead, we should say they are more or less useful. So with that criterion of usefulness in mind, let's see how our definition, religion is a means toward ultimate transformation, might be put to work to help us acquire a general, systematic, and comprehensive theory of religious life. String theory demonstrates one way to do this. It says, in order to understand any person's religion, we must first ask three basic questions, and then see if the answers reveal any common patterns. First, the first question, what is the fundamental problem of life as you see it? What is the ultimate concern of your life? Second, what is the ultimate solution or transformation as you understand it? And three, what means are available to you for achieving an ultimate transformation? Based on extensive study of the world's religious literature, string theory identifies 8 ways of being religious, or 8 types of religious life, 4 traditional and 4 non-traditional or secular types of religious expression. Now here's a chart showing the 4 traditional ways. These are means of achieving an ultimate transformation based on a distinction between a sacred, transcendent realm, say the realm of the gods, and the profane or secular realm of our day-to-day lives, this world. Listed in no special order, we see personal experience of the holy, as in supernatural visions or voices or a born-again experience. The next is participation in communal myth and ritual, active membership, for example, in a church. Next is daily conformity with cosmic law, as revealed usually in a sacred scripture. The fourth is freedom through spiritual discipline, for example, various systems of yoga, meditation practices aimed at achieving spiritual enlightenment. A couple of important points to notice about these 4. First of all these traditional ways are characterized by a transcendent conception of ultimate reality, a distinction between a sacred realm and the domain of everyday worldly life. Second, there can be some overlap among these. They can be combined, but usually just one is considered to be the primary means toward an ultimate transformation. And finally, number 3, the revolutionary discovery here is that versions of these are found in all the major traditions. Thus, there are 4 different ways of being a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, and so on. Now, these are not merely denominational or surface differences, but radically different means of achieving an ultimate transformation within the given tradition. String theory also identifies four non-traditional or secular religious types, as shown in this chart. Achieving an integrated self through creative interaction. For example, in psychotherapy or self-help or recovery groups such as Alcoholics Anonymous. Next, working towards social and economic justice. For example, feminist activism, participating in civil rights movements, Black Lives Matter. Next is working for progress through science and technology. These were major and are major values of the modernist period of our history. And finally, living a full life through sensuous experiences. We might call this enlightened hedonism. Some points to note about these four. First, all of them reject the traditional notion of a transcendent domain. Ultimate reality, they think, if we can speak of it at all, is to be found in this world, in this life. Secondly, string theory makes the startling claim that secular ways of life can be understood as authentically religious. Third, the system leaves room for new religions that might emerge in the future. And fourth, like the four traditional ways, the four secular types are not mutually exclusive. They can be combined in various ways. What are the advantages of the theory I've described so far? String theory offers a refreshing departure from other contemporary approaches to the study of religions. It takes religion seriously as foundational to the evolution of culture. It acknowledges that people hold different ideas about ultimate reality and what life concerns are ultimate. Adopting a pluralistic approach, the theory avoids the narrow sectarianism of traditional definitions and the dismissive critiques of modern philosophy. It embraces the tolerant attitude of postmodern approaches, that is, none of the ways of being religious is privileged or deemed better than the others. It correctly implies that religion is not merely a set of beliefs, as many contemporary discussions seem to assume. Finally, it offers the startling thesis that there are secular commitments that should be recognized as religious in nature. Finally, it unifies the 7 dimensions of religion we discussed earlier. Those, by the way, are understood in this system as means of transformation. So it unifies those 7 dimensions, thus providing, on the one hand, a more powerful criterion for distinguishing religious from non-religious ways of life. On the other hand, string theory exposes the clumsiness of the traditional labels Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, and so on. And it does this by creating a typology of religious types that cuts across cultural boundaries, giving us a much clearer picture of the similarities and differences among people in different faith traditions. A Muslim mystic, for example, practicing freedom through spiritual discipline, may have more in common with his Buddhist counterpart than with Orthodox worshippers of Allah practicing conformity with divine law. To summarize the argument so far, all humans must confront ultimate questions about life and death in some manner. Religion challenges people to take action, to change their unsatisfactory lives, and offers ways of reorienting them towards an ultimate resolution of their most fundamental concerns. In light of these ideas, I contend that the best working definition, the best I know of at any rate, best for the study of the world's faith systems, is the one proposed by string theory. Religion is a means toward ultimate transformation. Applying its definition to a study of traditional and secular life orientations, string theory has produced an impressive system of religious categories. Like any other grand scheme, of course, string theory is open to critical questions of various kinds. For example, one may wonder if the list of 8 ways is complete, or whether one or more of them is not really religious in any sense of the word. Those and other questions would make for interesting conversations, but I want to focus on 2 more significant problems. One is a failure to distinguish between spiritual states of consciousness and structures or permanent patterns of religious living. A second is the absence in religious pluralism of the important contributions of developmental psychology to our understanding of spirituality. The second of these problems I will take up in part 3 of this series. To the first one, that the theory does not recognize a critical difference between states of spiritual consciousness and structures or patterns of religious activity, the problem arises with the first of the 4 traditional ways. It is not clear that the first type charted in the figure is really a way of living a religious life. Notice the striking difference between personal experience of the holy and the other 3 traditional types. Each of those 3 can easily be understood as a genuine way of life, that is, a program of activities that can be enacted over and over, every day even, throughout a person's life. For example, regular reading of Scripture and daily prayer, practiced with the aim of attaining, in this life or the next, an ultimate transformation of the self. By contrast, personal experience of the holy refers to dramatic, unpredictable, short-lived, unrepeatable, and rare eruptions of spiritual energy, illumination, or emotion that cannot be harnessed into an ongoing spiritual practice in the same way as, say, daily prayer or meditation. A personal encounter with the divine may occur just once in a person's lifetime, never to be repeated. Now, it is true, as string theory stresses, that an experience of the divine mysterium tremendum often results in a dramatic change in a person's life going forward, from selfishness to generous service, for example. But the means employed in daily living after the transforming experiences are independent of the experience itself, which after a time may become just a distant memory. The new life, say, of the born-again person becomes a way of being religious that may not include regular visions of Jesus or revelations from Allah. Often, the personal encounter with the holy inspires a person to become a missionary. For example, the vision of the Christ experienced by St. Paul on the road to Damascus led him to become apostle to the Gentiles and the founder of the Christian Church. Those activities are properly classified in the string system under creation of community through myth and ritual. Similarly, after his revelation experiences, Muhammad founded Islam, which promotes daily living that expresses cosmic law. If these examples are typical, then it appears that the lives that are transformed by one or more personal experiences of the holy usually morph into the community through myth and ritual type, or the daily conformity with cosmic law, or some other type of regular spiritual practice. It seems then that while a personal encounter with the holy may well be a supreme transformation for the person who experiences it, its transitory, unrepeatable nature puts such experiences in a different category from the other 7 religious types identified in the system. Those are phenomena I call structures or patterns of religious expression. What then is the relationship between spiritual states and religious structures? That's a question I will take up later. The second problem I flagged earlier is that religious pluralism, of which string theory is an example, suffers from the absence of any recognition of stages of religious development in humans. Wait a minute. Stages of religious development? Well, it's not as strange an idea as we might think at first. We're all familiar, after all, with the observable development of children through stages, from infancy to early childhood, to adolescence to adulthood. But not until recently has anyone thought to expand inquiry into further stage development in adults and across cultural boundaries. In my next talk, I will explore the idea of spiritual development and how it might enhance our understanding of religion as a means toward ultimate transformation.